So thank you so much for joining today. I see Christy, thank you for joining today. If you are watching the replay, let me know. I want to see a comment below that you are watching the replay, and let's connect. So today we're going to talk about intermittent fasting. I am Tiffany Roberts with Back to Nature Lifestyle Medicine. And we actually, my husband and myself, we do intermittent fasting every single day. And I have seen some great results with my energy and my thinking. So, what better way to, share it with you guys than to do a little webinar so that you can understand why we do intermittent fasting and what the benefits are. So during this class, you will gain a better understanding of how to readily incorporate intermittent fasting into a fitness or a weight loss plan or just an everyday, health regimen. You will finally achieve your goals that you want to get with your energy levels and your metabolism back to the state of maximum benefit to you. So if you do have any questions, let me know. I am here to answer them, and I will get to them as quickly as I can. So what is intermittent fasting? Well, intermittent fasting is one of the most effective ways to lose weight and to get your body into shape. Simply put, intermittent fasting is not a diet. It is an eating pattern. And where did it come from? Well, believe it or not, intermittent fasting is derived from the eating patterns of our ancestors, the hunters and gatherers. The eating patterns relied on, their eating patterns relied on, the ever-changing and often unreliable abundance of food. They never knew when they were going to get their next meal. And they often went long periods of time without eating. Can you imagine Americans, going several hours without eating? That's hardly the case anymore. So when they did make a kill, they often ate and shared their catch amongst the entire tribe, in one go. So keep in mind also their lack of preservation methods or spices. They didn't have that back then. Some days, would not yield a catch or a kill for them to eat at all. Thus they unintentionally had periods of fasting. The following day, they would have, a trek, a hunt, and search for unknown lengths of time in order to try to produce some kind of catch. A level of activity combined with, food intake, which kept them very lean and agile throughout their whole lives. These eating patterns are ingrained in our DNA, and part of us knows that overeating is never and was never a sustainable or natural thing to do. But surprisingly, our bodies actually react positively to the lengthy periods without sustenance. It's provided that there is, no mental stress or tension involved during these times, because that can be a little different. The new phenomenon of intermittent fasting is actually based on centuries of evolution of humankind. A good argument for anyone trying to coin it as a new diet, but it's been going on for quite a while. There's numerous studies that show the benefits of diets based on intermittent fasting, yet as, with any eating, pattern, it doesn't come without its shortfalls, okay? We'll be outlining the advantages, disadvantages, and more about intermittent fasting. So try to maintain an open mind and get ready to learn as much as you can before deciding if it's for you or not. So if, the IF, we call it for short, intermittent fasting, generally involves varying periods of fasting interspersed by shorter windows of eating during which the calorie deficiency for the period of fasting time is accounted for. There are several cycles of this which, have been proven to work for those seeking weight loss. By adjusting the pattern and the frequency by which you consume your meals, you prolong the period of fasting generally reserved for nighttime and restrict your eating hours to a shorter period during the day. So you have calorie, deficiency. Well, as a general rule, to which, weight loss programs will agree, the best way to create weight loss is to restrict a number of calories consumed, in an activity, partaken, during the day. So intermittent fasting is no different, as the restriction of calories take place between the fasting hours, and it helps the body to digest and assimilate what was consumed during those non-fasting hours properly. Sometimes most Americans, we just eat too much, and we can't properly digest or break down or even absorb what we're eating because it's noon, I got to eat. We're dictated by the clock and not what the body actually needs. The important part of this cycle is to ensure that the meals that you eat in between fasting periods are balanced and contain enough nutrients and minerals to see that your body, through the next time of your period of fasting. There's numerous arguments, both for and against, just like with anything, that these patterns of eating that are, still disagreement and discontentment in the diet and the fitness world. So it's worth learning as much as you can and see if it suits you. Not every person is the same. Your lifestyle, your weight loss goals, maybe your health goals are a little different than anyone else. So before you commit, let's talk a little bit about what the upsides and the downsides are. So, as it wouldn't be fair to solely, look on the negatives, this kind of dieting has ultimately provided some participants with certain levels of success. Like I said, my husband and I, we intermittent fast every day. We've done it for years, and it works for us. We prefer it. We are able to think a lot more clear. Let's start with detailing some of the positive outcomes observed by the diets of if intermittent fasting. Some aspects of intermittent fasting that the media has directed attention to is the fact that almost all people undertaking a period of intermittent fasting have experienced at least one or more of the following: lower instances of cardiac complications, lower risk of developing diabetes, lower levels of inflammation and joint pain, and loss of excessive belly fat. Those are all some of the that's very few of all of the benefits that it actually can do. In addition to these positives, IF can help to regulate imbalanced hormonal and cellular function. This can be observed when, after not eating for a period of time, your body initiates important cellular repair processes and changes hormonal levels to make stored body fat more accessible. While fasting for a certain amount of time inevitably sends the body into a weight loss mode, as existing fat cells and hormones are called into the use to replace the depleted amount of energy that the body is receiving in the form of calories, because that is energy. The sustained period of time with no caloric intake followed by significant intake sends the metabolism into overdrive, and as such burns more during the digestion than you would usually on your normal day-to-day diet. So you can find out more in our empowerment group. I will enclose a link on different studies that you can look at to help you decide whether or not the upsides are good for you. So while overall benefits of intermittent fasting seem to be largely positive, and it is recommended that some of you check in with your doctor, but it is recommended by a lot of medical professionals. And, there are, as with most weight loss programs, there are downsides to be aware of. So let's talk about that. One of the most appealing factors of intermittent fasting is that during the non-fasting hours, the meals that you eat aren't necessarily specified as having to contain any particular amounts of calories. There's no restrictions or anything like that. However, you do want it to be balanced. Just like with anything in life, you want to be balanced. This means that while meal prepping, everything isn't a requirement, you still need to be relatively smart about the foods and the portions that you consume during the non-fasting hours. Just because you've built up a calorie deficient deficit over the fasting period doesn't mean that you can just go and eat, for 8 hours a day and have that, sonic drive-through or anything like that. You want to have smart choices. This is where most people fail with intermittent fasting. So it helps to be aware that it's not during the fasting hours that awareness of the body's hunger cues are most absorbed. You need to be very observant of what you are putting in your mouth during those 8 hours. So there are some eating issues. Intermittent fasting can also elevate the likelihood of developing or worsening eating disorders. So if you have a past of that, maybe you should talk to us so that we can help you through that. And so much of the IF revolves around controlling and maintaining certain levels of food intake. There is a fine line between when, obsession over eating and non-eating during that fasting or non-fasting days becomes heightened, even enough to become similar to an eating disorder thinking. So if you've had that in the past, let's connect. Let's talk about this. Let's see if it's a good fit for you, and then we can help you through it. So perhaps the most and well-known version of the intermittent fasting was originally suggested in the book 8 Hour Diet by David, and I'm probably going to mess up this name, but I will post it in the empowerment group. Zinczenko. So I'll post it in the group for you. In his book, he suggested that leaving longer periods between meals allows the body to process the food and break down any excess fat cells properly. Is preferable to eating, more numerous smaller meals during the day. So the good news is that for those sticking to the 16-8 diet, you sleep through most of that 16-hour window. So it's a good cheat, right? The idea is that you follow the pattern of not eating early in the morning and then eating around 11 or 12, right around lunchtime. For us, we do our, organo coffee to help get us something, but we don't have a meal. Okay, we have our little coffee, and it gets us until lunchtime. So leaving 2 hours after your first meal, so around 2 o'clock or so, and 2 hours before bedtime, the following pattern is a good way to do it. And simply put, the 16-8 method is pretty much involves just skipping breakfast and then ensuring that your last meal is consumed at least 2 hours before you go to bed. So that sounds easy, right? It is. The main challenge people face during a period of 16-8 diet is during the window of fasting is in the morning. We have to get past that thinking of I have to have breakfast. For anyone who has become accustomed to a breakfast like a king, the fitness media, has shared with you for years, to do that. This might present itself a little challenge. However, if the other meals of the previous day have been nutrient dense enough to provide both enough good nutrients and also satiate your hunger, the morning fasting period should, prove to be very easy. If you're eating empty calories throughout the day, it's going to be a little hard. It takes time to figure out what kind of foods will successfully help your energy levels throughout the day until test it out. And if you need a little help with that, let us know. We can definitely help you. The biggest question on most people's fast, hungry lips is, what can I eat during that 8-hour window? Another positive element of the diet is that, calories are not restricted during your eating hours. Both meals and snacks can be consumed, with the only guideline being that, you consist with healthy, balanced, and portion control. You don't want to be like having a Thanksgiving dinner at lunchtime every day. There's no forbidden foods on this diet, but as a professional, I would recommend that you avoid overindulgence as much as possible. I don't suggest going for refined, fake food. You want something that is real, that, God made, okay? Not through a drive-through. The urge to overeat or binge can arise over a period of fasting, and so the 16-8 dieters must be aware of this danger to lower the likelihood of them binging. If it helps you to break your fast initially with a light snack instead of a heavy meal, then you can do this, and it helps you to go a little longer time. So during the 16-hour fasting period, non-caloric liquids can be consumed, such as organo green tea, black coffee, water. Making sure that they contain no sugar is a very key to the successful 16-hour fast. It helps to take time while eating to savor each bite, to chew it and be thankful. Maybe even take a few minutes to break in the middle of your meal to allow your digestion to begin. And studies have shown that this is beneficial for overall gut and mental health, as well as weight loss. A lot of times we just go through and we just shove it in our mouth and we go. We don't sit down and we don't chew our food and taste it and be thankful for it. That is also a very huge part of the success of this program. So in the fact that the author of the diet states that types of food don't matter too much seems to vastly contradict pretty much every other kind of healthy, diet plan that we've ever seen. I'm sure that eating 3 meals of fried, sugary, fatty foods during this eating window would lead to different results after a period of time. So, like I said, let's be smart about what we're eating. As with all intermittent, fast, the diet is not suitable for everyone with unstable or unreliable blood sugar. So again, we need to talk about that. With low levels of sugar during the fasting hours can lead to complications. So, let's talk if we have that. So many studies in recent years have indicated the benefits of consuming breakfast within an hour of waking, so that, it can be hard to change that thought and that habit to suit, that mindset, right? The trick is just to try it. Start on a weekend. If that works without too much anxiety, then you can, go a little longer. Maybe you can go through the week. Repeated eating patterns become easier for the body and the mind to adjust to, as with any other diet plan. So the 16-8 can prove challenging in the beginning. It was for me, but now it's a daily thing. If I have breakfast, I'm just like, well, I can't do anything for the rest of the day. So another popular kind of intermittent fasting is the 5-2 diet. This option involves fasting completely for entire 2 days of the week, so maybe on a weekend or something, and then following your normal diet patterns the other days. During the fasting days, dieters are recommended to only drink water and non-calorie liquid drinks and refrain from, overexertion. Don't exercise during this time. The other days of the week can be considered much, like an eating window, like the 16-8 diet that we talked about. That is to ensure that all meals taken during this period of time are healthy, balanced, and not used as an excuse to overeat after a period of non-eating. Also known as the eat, stop, eat. The theory here is that the days where the food is not ingested are seen as a means of letting the body properly absorb and rest from digestion. The negatives here include long periods of fasting being initially extremely challenging for new dieters. So if this is the case, the instigators have allowed for gradual weaning of the diet to ensure maximum benefit. The longer fasting periods can also make it more tempting to binge after you've been fasting. And it is worth noting that it takes a lot of willpower and control for this type of diet. So, if you're really strong and you're really into it, this one will probably be good for you. This is exactly what it sounds like. Fasting on every alternate day as opposed to eating, for a set period of days through the week. Many doctors will advise against this method for anyone completing that are really new to the fasting technique, as full fasting, every other is a bit extreme for, bodies unaccustomed to efforts or these effects. There are many different versions of this kind of fast, however, some of which allow up to 500 calories a day on the fasting day. So, many health professionals maintain that this method is inadvisable for long period weight loss pursuits, as the frequency of the fasting periods can lead to unhealthy habits and shouldn't be attempted without having tried fasting. So this one I don't recommend just because I don't want any kind of unhealthy habits. The warrior diet consists of fasting completely during the day and eating one large meal at night. The thinking behind this one comes from similar origin of the 16-8 diet, the warrior reflex of the human body having been accustomed to long periods without food in times before, ready-made meals and 5-minute meals and grocery stores were a commonplace and easily accessible. Ori Hofmelker was the first person to popularize this diet, as he emphasized the importance of consuming light, low-calorie snacks during the day, such as, plain fruits and vegetables, and then eating one large balanced meal at night. The permitted or recommended food groups for the large balanced meal should include ingredients similar to those consumed on the paleo diet, unprocessed, natural whole foods that would have been accessible by some of the earliest ancestors in the Paleolithic period. So I will put a link in the group for the warrior diet for his journey on the intermittent fasting. I actually did this over the weekend. I was so busy that I didn't have time to eat, but I had a good balanced dinner in the evening. So a large part of successful intermittent fasting is centered around creating the right mentality. As with any new diet or eating plan, you can't expect to see immediate results. Human beings are creatures of habit, and shifting away from normal eating or exercise regimen or lack thereof can take time to adjust to. This is more of a mental thing than physical, as the recent studies on getting rid of the diet mentality suggest. But intermittent fasting needn't be so hard. It's not. It's important, however, to understand that you can't just decide you're going to go fast and, if you accidentally mess up or skip breakfast or another large meal, you want to make sure that you're mentally ready for this. This kind of false justification rarely works and generally results in severe trials of energy levels and even binges and spikes in your blood sugars. The best way to go about starting intermittent fasting is to plan ahead on your schedule. Pick a date and start. Start, your eating patterns on a Monday, for example, and spend Sunday prior getting yourself more educated on exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, and make yourself aware of your potential outcomes and potential reactions, both positive and negative. Consult medical advice. If you're in a way, unsure about whether or not intermittent fasting is something that could work for you, seek out, a doctor's advice beforehand. The following conditions are signs that you probably should not try intermittent fasting. If you're pregnant or breastfeeding, we don't recommend it. If you have a history of an eating disorder, if you have diabetes or issues with blood sugar levels, or you're prone to experiencing high anxiety, or you faint, those are things that we need to look into deeper. So I would suggest that you contact us so that we can help you through that. So as so much of us, the dieting focused around negative emotions and punishment for slip-ups or deviations from the diet, it's so important to establish a healthy mindset surrounding weight loss, before you try intermittent fasting. Successful weight loss, and that means sustainable long-term weight loss that stays lost, generally centers around creating positive lifestyle changes that incorporate healthy eating and automatically lend themselves to weight loss. This involves not only diet, but also activity levels, environmental factors, and most importantly, your mentality. Intermittent fasting can be used as one of those lifestyle changes, a simple eating pattern that you follow days of the week or month that helps you to regulate your metabolism and slowly return your body to its most natural balanced state. But keep in mind, how you view the process of intermittent fasting in your head. If you're expecting it to work as a quick fix, then it won't be sustainable. Trust your body. A huge element of successful weight loss involves learning how to listen to your body correctly. This means feeding and moving and being kind to your body, when it needs to be. We had a huge event weekend. So yesterday, my body was just saying, sit down and don't do anything. We went to the park, but, sometimes you have to listen. And because if you don't listen to the whispers of the wind, you won't be able to bear the storm. A lot of health professionals overcomplicate weight loss by cornering it into one small element of the pie chart that relies on entirely to achieve, wholeness. It's not. It's everything. Anyone who has experienced achieving weight loss or gaining it back will tell you that, the satisfaction was fleeting. Only by listening to our bodies and providing them the nutrients and the environment and movement necessary to cultivate a balanced lifestyle can we hope to achieve the ideal weight. If intermittent fasting helps you reach that point, fantastic. View it as a tool which has helped you reach a full awareness of your body. Don't get addicted, but constantly, don't constantly fast, and don't expect the changes to be overnight. Like I said, with everything, there is balance. So studies have shown that intermittent fasting can affect the functioning of our cells, our genes, and our hormones, as the altered pattern of our eating will ultimately release the hormones necessary for cell growth and repair. Intermittent fasting is particularly effective regarding the hormones that have to do with hunger, blood sugar, and metabolism. Reducing insulin resistance is extremely effective in lowering blood sugar levels, thus they're lowering your risk of developing type 2 diabetes. It has been suggested that periodic fasting can trigger improved cell growth and your immune system repair, assisting the body's recovery from treatments such as chemotherapy, as well as using stores of glucose. Prolonged periods of fasting also breaks down significant portions of white blood cells. This then triggers stem cell-based regeneration of new immune system cells. So a fascinating article about fasting-induced cell regulation. I will actually post that in the group for you to read about, cancer and, new stem cell regeneration. So the human growth hormone is known to be one of the most highly effective hormones in the body during periods of fasting. After 6 hours of a fast, the hormone goes into overdrive and starts producing physiological results in the form of increased metabolism and fat burning. The proteins it produces, amino acids, which is proteins, are used to improve brain and neurofunctioning, also repairing collagen and helping with skin growth and beautiful skin and repair while it does so. So insulin and HGH works as opposites in this function. And I'll post the article for you to look at if you would like to. Cardiovascular health, fasting helps to reduce instances of inflammation, contributing to lowered cholesterol, blood pressure, and overall weight. There are benefits of those seeking to improve their heart health. However, doctors also advise caution to these patients as electrolytes imbalance can occur, giving rise to arrhythmias. So again, we want to make sure that your heart is healthy. So the doctor that the article that I will post in the group states, however, that there is still a lot of research to be done in this area regarding heart health and intermittent fasting. So for those unsure or wary of, trying it, that doctor advised consulting medical professionals or a natural medicine coach before you embark on a fasting journey. So bottom line, it seems that the same goes for, existing medical conditions. If you wish to try losing weight with intermittent fasting, it is best to consult your diet or, get a certified, natural medicine doctor. Curiously, there have been studies to show that intermittent fasting has more successful rates in men instead of those in women. This has to do with their hormonal rates involved in metabolism and fat storage and takes into account centuries of women's activity levels being lower than those of men. If we're considering the origins of intermittent fasting from the perspective of ancestral habits, this definitely should be taken into consideration when analyzing the difference in results between men and women. The idea is that men were traditionally involved in the more active hunting and sourcing of the substances, and women, we were developed differently with a higher reliance on fat storage and muscle stability for tending the crops and the children and the housework, and hormones play a role. Men and male and female inevitably also require a process hormones differently than each other. So as we've already discussed the effects of intermittent fasting and hormones, it allows the different levels and types of hormones will produce different effects and results to fasting. So, if your husband is doing it with you and he loses a lot of weight fast, don't get discouraged. It's natural. Just keep going, okay? Overall, in the terms of dieting and losing weight, it's best. And, to be honest, with yourself and why you want to achieve what you're set out to do with trying intermittent fasting, you'll find that motivation can come simply from taking time to find this why. Having a good why in anything helps motivate you. The same goes for any kind of weight loss program. If you have a clear goal And with clear motivation and clear steps to achieve it, it's difficult to fail. While there's still relatively little research done on the long-term effects of intermittent fasting, it can't be denied that enough people have experienced positive results from using the methods that we've discussed today for it to become a widely discussed, as it has, and it's becoming more popular. Being honest with yourself about these factors is also important. Honestly noting reactions or responses that your body might have to a fast and seeking medical advice if you need to, if you're unsure with that experience. Take this, few minutes to consider what your goals are and how you feel and why. Why do you want to try intermittent fasting? And what do you realistically think that you will receive during this time? Like I said, we've been doing it for several years. On the weekends, we take a break. We're a little lenient with ourselves on the weekends, but we do intermittent fast throughout the entire week. And for us, we have found that it, definitely improves how we feel. So, if you're considering it, like I said, plan it out and, pick a date to start and see how you do. So we are done and you are just getting started. Thank you so much for taking the time to experience this class. And, if you guys have any questions about intermittent fasting, please let me know because I am here to answer any of your questions. Just reach out to us at functionalmedicinekc.com. And for any of our patients, you definitely know where our text number and everything else